Yeah, so let's think about it this way. You don't actually have to think about it in sort of clouds of in terms to think about this. So this guy wakes up tomorrow and he's realised that as soon as he pressed the button, he's made a horrible mistake. So it doesn't actually do anything, it goes over his head. So you're saying to the guy, well, as soon as you press that button, you're effectively King Canute, aren't you? Because you thought that would work. So all we're saying to you is, well, if we can then take personal legal action against you, because if you actually look at the evidence chain, there would have been a solicitor in the process, because once again, that is a straightforward inference under the EQA as is now. So you start to realise the problem is that because of the different neurology, you could walk up to a policeman and say, oh right, yeah, so here's a problem in the compliance department, but you again run into the problem that the average policeman is too dumb. This is always a problem in criminal law. They can't actually work out what you're saying. They can't basically understand that level of conversation. So you want to get them out of the way, you can talk to someone sensible, and you're doing that at 2 a.m. and you have no coffee and this is a bail hearing. So this is the kind of problem you've got. But the modern police, of course, are using the same tactics, and you've got the cowardly little cretin who hides behind glass. They send out the tiny little blonde copper in the Bio-Leninist sense, and she says, "Got the licensing." And of course, it's obvious why I'm bugging around what they do. The electronic gate then slams shut, and they say, "Oh no, you have responsibility." So at every stage of the process, it's going up through, every organisation in Birmingham. So they've got the advocacy referral last year. So EHR says they've got to work. They've got to choose a referral basically. You've got to have a human from that whoever phones them coming through and saying whatever they're going to say, but that would involve a human giving you a summary. So it's yes, no, whatever. In this case, it's can we take who do we take legal actions against, or who can we take action against? It's clearly John Cotton on a personal level. So can we get them out of the way? So we can do the silly legal action, which is against a pub, or we can say, well, we agreed a contract with the pub back in 2009, which is we will do legal enforcement on the basis that this is a British public body. If it's not a British public body, then this is not only constructive dismissal, but this is a total breakdown of order, isn't it? So the first rule of the compliance department is, who are you? I don't know who you are, get out. That is day one of the job. It's just that because of Varney locking us out of buildings, not being locked out of prison, pretty good. But maybe that's where he left. Varney is going to be associated with the Stanford prison experiment, so it'd be a bit embarrassing, really, in professional terms. But now he's gone. But anyway, no occupational health, by the way, from City Birmingham during the entire episode, or after they actually dumped us off to die. But yeah, you're thinking it through. So you've got this kabuki factory in Birmingham, which is spinning toxic waste, and that corrupts the entire legal process, because my database is now full of filth. We've got to go through with a mop and get the stuff out. But of course, it's not like you go out and go into pay someone to delete it. You go through to everyone in the city and say, well, this is why this was wrong, and this is why it affected the compliance team. So the under Nolan, again, you have to be selfless. So for the recording, to be here to pay own money with transportation costs to make the point that the managing director Clipping can't carry on behaving this kind of man, can she? Again, if you're saying to someone like that, what you're doing is comparable to, thalidomide or like Senkerism, but you're too dumb to know what that is, and you carry on, then you're by definition not an elite. So thalidomide poison, of course, it looked like it was good, but when the fruit came out, of course, you had horrible problems with children, ruined their lives and their families, fortunately, in many cases, so it was banned. So it looks good initially, then bad along the way, which of course is ideology, anti-racism is basically that, and Lysenkoism was, of course, Hegelianism. So Lysenko was a commie, so Hegelian dialectic goes into wheat, so you plant the wheat really close together in a Marxist cultural theory, and they just sort of cut it off each other's nutrients and die. So there's the Hegelian dialectic based on grain. Ukraine, the Ukrainian famine happens because of the dialectic, probably. But yeah, so this is why they're quite dangerous. So it's also Platonists. So if Platonists are left to jibber jabber and you can't break Diogenes, say, well, shut up, mate, you're an idiot. Then they go off the rails a bit and you neutral civilization. So again, in terms of the elite discourse and the autism discourse, this is the problem. So it's fairly obvious that for the political record, Spade's going to do maths, I assure you. But obviously, you want to think about angles, but that's the guys on the ground. They're sort of aiming the guns at John Cotton. I can help with that, but come on, Elon Musk. He's clearly a Spade life, don't be daft. This is the problem with biology.